Hello, YouTube! Welcome in, welcome in. We are hanging out with some Dungeon Dad, and we are learning about the coolest D&D dragon that everyone forgot about. And just based off this artwork, I 100% agree. Freaking Cobra head and everything. Yes. Okay, let's check this out.
There are so many different dragons in D&D, even for a game with dragons in the title. The variety of dragons present is wild. And
True.
Today we're talking about one of the most important.
The metallic dragons, the copper dragons, the gem dragons. There's also the ferrous dragons. There's also fairy dragons. There's also undead dragons. There's dragon variants in the Shadowfell. There's also undead versions of each of the dragons. There's Draco Liches. There's dragon turtles. There's things that aren't even true dragons that are dragons, like wyverns and and drakes, and then we have kobolds and dragonborn, and then there's the dragon gods, and it just keeps going and going and going. There's so many dragons.
Dragons to ever see the light of day, only to be forgotten almost entirely. Welcome to Monster of the Week, the show where we dig up old creatures from D&D's past, talk about why they're cool, update their game rules, and give them some new artwork, as well as formulate ideas for how to actually use them in a D&D campaign. In my seemingly never-ending crusade to update all of the dragons who never made the cut to 5th edition, I have covered all the old metallic dragons, the ferrous dragons, the chromatic dragons, and most recently, the gem dragons. Gem dragons are the weird psychic cousins of the other dragon species, most notable for their psionic powers, mental acuity, and incredible charisma when compared to other giant winged lizards across the multiverse. If you want to know more about gem dragons as a whole, I highly recommend you check out my Obsidian Dragon video. Otherwise, let's get into the final and most powerful member of the Gem Dragon family tree.
So this is one of the Gem Dragons. Hey, if you guys want me to check out more of the Gem Dragon stuff, let me know. Leave a like in the on the video, comment down below, all that fun stuff. Maybe we'll check out some of the other Gem Dragon videos that he's done.
The Ruby Dragon.
As a ruby.
Back in May of 1980, in Dragon Magazine issue 37, the legend himself, Arthur W. Collins, introduced the concept of gem dragons to the world as an alignment-neutral alternative to the lawful metallic dragons and the evil chromatic dragons.
Okay.
This, of course, is where crystal, topaz, emerald, sapphire, amethyst, and ruby dragons would be introduced. However, if you look at their game information on page 7, you'll notice that the age category information for ruby dragons is entirely blank, with just a couple of asterisks. The little stars. On page 36, the reason for this becomes clear. Ruby dragons don't have age categories because, well, there's only one of them. Much like Bahamut, the platinum dragon and god of metallic dragons, as well as Tiamat, the five-headed mother of chromatic dragons, Sardior is the god and de facto ruler of all gem dragons. But if you know anything about this channel, you know that I'm a colossal D&D nerd and that there's way more to this story. As the legend goes, Sardior, the ruby dragon, lives in his floating castle, which orbits around the planet, always staying within its shadow. His castle is so large, in fact, that people who see its ruby walls glinting in the night sky often mistake it for a red star or even a distant moon, when in actuality, it's just Sardior's party palace. In this palace, the ruby dragon keeps a group of retainers referred to as Thanes, each of which is the ruler of one other gem dragon species. So basically, you've got a dragon god surrounded by 5 or maybe 6, depending on who you ask, ancient gemstone dragons. Jumping ahead to 2021, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons introduced
Okay, that's dope. That's like an epic level encounter as well. Like, imagine these guys being like the BBEGs and you're having to go against basically their council. And if you guys really fuck up the campaign, you end up being in a room with all of them. That'd be so horrifying.
Most of the gem dragons back into the game, and it gave us some lore about what may have ultimately happened to Sardior. The Elegy of the First World is a draconic saga that tells the tale of all these dragons and their history. There's a lot to unpack about this thing, but the part that relates to today's topic is that it more or less confirms Sardior was the child of Bahamut and Tiamat, or at least he was created by both of them together.
Okay.
And I mean, you've got your evil goddess of dragons and your good god of dragons making a neutral god of dragons, so that all seems to line up. However, according to the Elegy, Sardior was slain and his essence was split into tons of teensy tiny slivers from which all other gem dragons would arise. And this is where we run into a good old-fashioned contradictory lore statement. Old lore seems to imply that Sardior definitely existed alongside other gem dragons, and Fizban seemed to suggest that his death was their genesis event. Which version of that you subscribe to is really just up to what you think sounds more interesting, and who knows, maybe you want to do a secret third thing. But regardless of all that,
Gross.
the fact that ruby dragons aren't present in fizz bands ignores a bunch of other contradictory lore from 2nd edition. Now, this is not technically Forgotten Realms lore, so I can see why this went under the radar, but in order to see ruby dragons evolve from just Sardior the ruby dragon to a bespoke type of gem dragon with many different individuals making up the species, we need to look at Mystara. Mystara was a setting for D&D that was published in 1981 by TSR.
Okay, so this isn't the Forgotten Realms or anything like that. This is its own thing. This is a whole other universal construct, or I believe. Oh my god.
The same company that first published D&D. While not part of the Forgotten Realms, which has sort of become the de facto D&D setting, it is still very much
for now, until 6th edition comes around and they try and make it all about a different area.
official D&D content, and this book, the Mystara Monstrous Compendium, released in 1994, not only came out the year I was born, but also contains the first and only instance of ruby dragons interpreted as not a singular entity, but a species of dragon. This book actually contains 4 different dragon species, however, it does make a point to mention that these dragons are not the same as the gem dragons in other D&D books. The big difference is that they don't have psionic abilities, but seeing as how there aren't actually ruby dragons in any other source books, I felt like this was a good place to look and see how we might make a proper ruby dragon species, not just a draconic god. It's also where we see the ruby dragons.
Because that's the problem with making, like, deities in D&D, right? If it can bleed, it can die. If it has hit points, you can kill it, right? So when you give stats to a god, all your players see is like, oh, it's a sack of hit points and XP, let's go hit the pinata with a stick. And that's all that players care about. As I've had so many friends that were like so excited when the demon princes got their stats that they were like, oh, we can go kill them now. Like, that's not the point of this. Personally, the way I would probably work the hit points and all that is pretty much just like their patience threshold. How long they want to deal with you until they're just like, okay, I'm done messing around with you, okay? And then they just kind of wipe you out of existence. This is their playtime numbers, okay? This is what they're going to do to, hang out and vibe with you. Once their hit points hit 0 and all that, they're like, okay. I had my fun. God.
Breath weapon detailed in full for the first time, which is not a cone of hot fire, but a cone of intense heat. Basically,
is this like the Ace verse what's that dude from? Is this basically Ace versus Sakazaki from One Piece? Magma's hotter than fire, thus Sakazaki's able to punch through Ace. Is that kind of like the thought process we're looking at here?
Basically, a ruby dragon can superheat the air in front of them to burn or melt pretty much everything in the area. Jumping back to Fizzbands, if we take a look at the Dragonborn of Sardior, we can see that all these years later, they still have this heat breath.
The Dragonborn exhales a wave of intense heat in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in the area must make a DC 14 Constitution saving throw, or take 68 fire damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. Metal objects in the area glow red hot. Until the end of the Dragonborn's next turn, any creature in physical contact with a heated object at the start of its turn must make a DC 14 con save to take 2d8 fire damage, and has a disadvantage on attack rolls until the start of its next turn. Ooh. So it's basically heat metal in a fire breath. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a little more sense. I thought they were going to be like, yeah, because it's super heated breath, it's able to actually burn fire resistance and all that, because they love doing stuff like that these days. But no, this makes a lot more sense.
Which is kind of cool. The way it works is more or less the same as a red dragon's breath weapon, except that it also has an effect similar to the spell Heat Metal, which is cool, but once I saw what the breath attack did in 2nd edition, I knew I had to change it up for my 5e conversion, because originally, it's so brutal. But before we jump into that, I gotta give a big ol' shout
I'm excited. I'm very excited.
out to this week's sponsor, Hit Play Pulse. Hit Play Pulse is a tool for dungeon masters who don't want to just play music, but want to use music.
Ooh, this is something that's always brought up for this is like one of the big questions people have for DMs. How do I make my game more interesting? How do I um keep people's attention a little better? Music, sound, audio. Having that little extra bit of audio just in the background. If you watch my streams, if I'm not playing a game and I'm just doing like an art stream or just like some just chatting, I have to have like my little music playing in the background. Otherwise, because there's going to be like moments where I'm just going to have downtime on my conversations, or I'm not talking as much. Because of that, that those moments of silence are almost deafening with how like quiet it is, and that's the point where people's attention will then check out. So if you have a little bit of like music and audio playing, that will work a lot, very hard in holding your players' attention a little bit better into the game space, and thus allowing them to immerse a little better. Mm-hmm.
Music to immerse their table no matter what the group of little knuckleheads is getting up to. Hit Play Pulse allows you to play music from an app on your phone that sets the scene for the players, but what's awesome about it is that with the press of a button, you can keep the same music going but change the vibe to suit whatever is happening at the table. Did your casual trip to town get interrupted by some bandits? Well, just escalate the stakes a bit, and without skipping a beat, you're in combat. And maybe things take a turn for the worst, or an even greater threat arrives. Well, that's when we get to bring in the choir to really up the stakes and make your players feel like they're in the middle of a struggle between life and death scored by an actual composer. And that's because all this music is scored by an actual real composer, the human kind, who makes awesome human music. So if you want to elevate your game soundtrack from a playlist to a live soundtrack where the music never...
Look, okay, this is something that's becoming a little bit more of a pet peeve to me these days. And let me say this first before I say my little piece here. I don't like AI. Obviously, I don't like AI. I would prefer a human touch to everything. And also, I'm an artist, right? Like, obviously, I'm a little antagonistic against the thing that people will go to in order to take my job. But here's the thing: a lot of people who use AI tend to only use it because they straight up can't afford, or they don't feel they have the ability to do the art bit part themselves. So they'll just get like a stand-in until they can get to a point. But because of the way people have been treating everything, it has become so antagonistic that if you even so much as looked at AI, a lot of artists will just blacklist you right then and there and will refuse to work with you because you didn't pick up a pen for 5 minutes. Listen, I get it. It's a pain in the ass. But my annoyance is that every single company coming out nowadays is constantly putting on the front page, made by humans, not AI. Made by humans, not AI. As if that's like some groundbreaking achievement. Okay, put that into like an FAQ somewhere. You don't have to make that as like your #1 sales pitch. That's not what I'm coming here for. I'm coming here for like game music for my D&D table. I don't care if it was made by AI or made by a person at that point. If I do care, I'll look into the program a little bit more. But it just kind of like virtue signals to a point where if you end up ever being like, oh, maybe this AI could really help what I'm doing, and you pivot just a little bit, congratulations, all those people that you brought in for the sole purpose of we did not use AI will now completely leave your program because now you put a tiny bit of AI, even if it wasn't to put audio in. Even if you use AI in order to, I don't know, organize some books, or like some book work for your company, or use AI in order to I don't know, script up something. I don't know. So even if the AI was just for like literal, like basic work sort of thing, people will if they hear that you use the AI, will then be like, oh, now you're evil. And it just gets frustrating. Once again, not a fan of AI, but I'm not going to shit on somebody because they use it. Because what's that going to do? What's that going to accomplish? Anyway, this isn't a video about AI, this is a video about a cool dragon. I just wanted to say my little pet peeve about everything having to signal straight up, hey, we're not using AI, we're actually humans over here. It's silly. But either way, I'm not trying to criticize, it's just annoying. It's just a little pet peeve of me. That's all.
Has an awkward cut or gets way too intense out of the blue, and you have control over everything that happens, follow the link down below and check it out for yourself. We've also got a 6 sound effects library. And Hit Play Pulse is going to Kickstarter on August 4th, but if you head on over to their website and sign up to be an MVP, you can get access to some exclusive Kickstarter rewards before the launch and sign up to receive updates to follow the project during its development. As someone who always uses music at the table to set the vibe, I cannot wait to get my hands on this, so thank you once more to Hit Play Pulse for bringing us here to talk about the dragon whose breath burns so hot it melts armor. Speaking of which, the Ruby Dragon's heat breath—
Oh wait, what? It burns so hot it melts. Oh no.
originally did a couple different things. First and foremost, it sets you on fire, and until you put that fire out, you're just kind of burning and taking damage. Secondly, it would destroy any mundane equipment you had on, as fire is wont to do. Things made of paper would be instantly incinerated, leather would burn for 1 round before turning into ashes, and metal could burn for 3 rounds before melting into uselessness. Now I think that sounds really cool, or hot, but it's also a pain in the butt to keep track of, and it's a little inelegant for my refined monstrous taste, so I had an idea. My conversion of the Ruby Dragon—
Also, the art you got done for this is phenomenal. That is beautiful. Look at that ruby crown. Oh, sorry. Look at that ruby crown. The extra gems surrounding it, going into the big, like, cobra style like physiology to it. It looks grand and majestic and fantastic. The artist for this fucking cooked. Just holy crap.
Dragon's breath attack sets out to achieve more or less the same thing, but with the rules for a modern DM. Its initial burst of superheated breath does a bunch of fire damage, and if you fail your save, sets you on fire, meaning that you are now burning. Burning in—
Hold it. You didn't read the actual thing. I'm going to read the actual thing.
Oh, also, I just noticed that it's immune to prone. Are we using that snaky design for that? Neat. Anyway, superheated breath. Recharge on the 5 or 6. Dexterity saving throw, DC 18. Each creature in a 30-foot cone, which, honestly, that's a pretty small cone now that I think about it, for a, massive creature. On a failure, takes 16d6 or 56 fire damage, and the target is burning. All non-magical items made of paper, being worn, or carried by the target are destroyed immediately. At the start of the target's turn, if the target is still burning, any non-magical armor worn by the target takes a cumulative -1 penalty to AC it offers, and any non-magical weapon takes a -1 penalty to attack rolls. Armor is destroyed if the penalty reduces the AC to 10. All weapons are destroyed if the penalty reaches -5. The penalty can be removed by casting the mending spell on the armor or weapon. Failure by 5 or more. Failure by 5 or more. This damage ignores resistance, but not immunity to fire. The thing I was talking about earlier. Success, half damage only. Wow. Okay, fair enough. That's intense. That is somewhat intense. I probably would have made it so that on a failure, the armor and weapons just take a -1 right out the gate of all this, but no further. Because this is what is it? Oh no, it is a dexterity saving throw. So this is a get out of dodge ability. Never mind. Then this makes sense. But that's violent. So it's basically kind of like the rust monster. Because the rust monster and I think some oozes do the same sort of effect.
A bunch of fire damage, and if you fail your save, sets you on fire, meaning that you are now burning. Burning in D&D 5e isn't really a condition, but it is a hazard, which we have rules for, and those rules state that you take 1d4 fire damage at the start of every turn if you're burning, and that you can stop burning by taking an action to extinguish the fire on yourself, which you—
and using your action in order to put the fire out while you're fighting a giant dragon, not a fun thing to do.
You by getting the prone condition and rolling around. Stop, drop, and roll, kids. You can also stop burning if the fire is suffocated, submerged, or doused. The 1d4 fire damage isn't the thing you need to be worried about here, though it does add a little extra pain. But because we now have a specific rule for burning, I simply made it so that every round a burning creature starts their turn while burning, any weapons and armor they have receive a -1 penalty. I used the equipment degradation rules found in the Grey Ooze stat block, among others, to work this out.
Exactly what I said. Haha! I'm a fucking nerd.
And it kind of works perfectly. If you haven't used a Grey Ooze or a Rust monster in a while, basically, the way this works is a suit of armor that takes a negative penalty reduces the amount of extra AC it gives you by that amount, and if the penalty reduces the armor's bonus to 10, aka it's not giving you any extra armor class, the armor's destroyed. This means that a set of studded leather armor can last 2 rounds before it gets totally destroyed, while a suit of plate armor can last 8 rounds before being melted away. For weapons, the weapon gets a cumulative -1 penalty to its attacks, and if that penalty reaches -5, the weapon is destroyed. So you don't have to track how many rounds,
which is it's a pretty decent chunk, but you would almost assume it'd be a higher amount for certain weapons. But I can also understand why you would want to just make it a cumulative -5 for all weapons, because like daggers at that point they're so brittle that they're like hindering themselves to actually even be used. Long swords, they're basically like you're basically just hitting them over the head with like a floppy piece of metal. It's probably not going to work too terribly well. Also, I just want to double check something. All items made of paper being worn or carried are immediately destroyed. At the start of each turn, the target is still burning. Any armor worn... Any armor... This bypasses the magical effect. So if you have like normally for these types of creatures like the Rays and the Rust Monster, if it's like a +1 or, you know, just generally a magic piece of armor, even if it's common, even if it's just like a sword that glows, it is immune to these effects because it's technically magical. This doesn't say magical. It doesn't say the non-magical armors. It just says any armor or weapon. Ooh. That's mean. But makes sense. This is an endgame creature. If you're going up to an endgame creature and you're not using, like, you know, endgame armor and weapons, 1, fucking baller. But 2, you going to die.
You've been burning for just how much damage your equipment has taken, which you'd be doing anyway. I also think that equipment degradation is not something we see often in D&D, especially not 5e, and especially not...
A lot of players hate it. Hate it with a burning passion. When you take away a player's pretty magic item, it's almost like you're killing their character sometimes. Ask me how I know.
When dealing with something like a dragon. This also allows for some creative play using spells that very seldom get the spotlight, such as Create Water, which is kind of fun. Now, fortunately, the Mending spell can be used to repair damaged objects, and magic items are unaffected, so your players don't have to worry about their precious equipment being destroyed by a ruby dragon.
Did I misread? Because by the way you wrote it, 3, 4, 5. If the target is any armor worn, but takes a community. No, it's basically based on what you've written. Any armor worn by the target takes a cumulative negative. Armor is destroyed. If the penalty reduces the AC, and any weapons are destroyed. So yeah, based on what you said or wrote on the thing, that's how I would roll it, and I wouldn't mind.
Are unaffected, so your players don't have to worry about their precious equipment being destroyed by a ruby dragon.
My players would.
Unless they go after the king. Once a ruby dragon reaches the ancient category, their breath burns so hot that it can straight up melt down magic items. So any party seeking to take out an ancient ruby dragon had better plan accordingly.
Okay, so we were reading the ancient one there at that moment. That makes sense. Okay, so if it's an adult, it won't be able to melt the magic, which I think adults should be able to, or at least like still apply the negatives to it, and then you can mend them back to normal. Whereas the ancient should be able to just, if it gets to a certain point, they're just dead. The items are just dead. Mhm.
As far as the rest of their kit goes, Ruby Dragons have all the standard dragon stuff and really solid mental stats. They're said
Yeah, well, that's Niv Mizzet. Holy crap, 30 con, 30 strength, 28 intelligence, 20 wisdom, 28 charisma. Gee, boss, the only thing that's not over 20 is dex. That is nasty.
They're said to be incredible conversationalists and wicked smart, so their stats reflect that. They also burn with such an intense heat that not only are they immune to fire, but they resist cold, and they have access to a bunch of spells which they can cast mentally as psionics, meaning they don't need any components. By the time one of these bad boys reaches the ancient category, they've got Command, Detect Magic, Friends, which notably doesn't inform the target they were charmed when the spell ends like it normally does, Sending, Scorching Ray, Shape Change, Unseen Servant, Blur, Dispel Magic, Geish, and I give them Lightning Bolt, but with the specification that it deals fire damage. So tons.
Neat. Why not just fire? Oh, I guess there's a reason why not Fireball. Fireball's for bitches. Lightning Bolt's cool.
It's a fun toys to control the battlefield, navigate social situations, and obliterate their enemies. I also gave them a legendary action called Heat Wave that threatens to give levels of exhaustion to their enemies, which is easily prevented with magic, but as always when you are trying to take on a
the dragon unleashes a blast of staggering heat. Constitution save and throw DC 25. Each creature that is not immune to fire damage and organization originating from the dragon failure, the target gains 1 level of exhaustion. Okay.
Dragon, you'd better be prepared because taking a level or 2 of exhaustion in a boss fight is not something you want to deal with.
No.
But that's assuming this dragon is even an enemy to the party, which they very well could be, but also might not be.
I mean, they're neutral, so I mean, like, they're either against you or they're not against you. It's really how you're treating them at that point.
Ruby dragons have a really interesting personality among dragon kind. They are both intelligent and charismatic, so they're aware that they sit at the apex of the gem dragon hierarchy, but to them, this is just a fact, and they expect to be treated as such. But they're not belligerent about it either. In fact, they enjoy the company of other creatures, mortals included, and will gladly discuss anything with those they cross paths with. Ruby dragons are also obsessed with knowledge and learning, but not in the same way that most creatures who fall into this archetype are. They don't spend their days buried in heaps of books. Instead, they prefer to learn from others. Rather than reading an old dusty tome, a ruby dragon is likely to have someone else read it and then tell them all about what they learned, thus allowing them to feed.
They're the type of person that likes to sit either on YouTube all day and watch how-to videos, or they like to go talk to their friends and be like, hey, can you show me how to do something? Okay, I just want to see you work.
Both their desire for knowledge and conversation simultaneously. Basically, they take the lore bard approach to learning. So if you happen to have a lore bard or someone else interested in orating to a ruby dragon in your party, that could be an in. To them, knowledge may be power, but it is also a great way to initiate conversation. As far as including a ruby dragon in your game, there are tons of things you can also do here. If you want to stick with the most recent canon lore about Sardior's death and the creation of other gem dragons, maybe you have a powerful dragon who is the last lingering shard of Sardior's true self, and it is desperate to see the dragon god return to One Piece. So this mad ruby
The One Piece is real!
Dragon is doing its best to slay all the other gem dragons and capture their essence, thus restoring Sardior bit by bit. Or perhaps the ruby dragons are simply just another draconic gem dragon species in your world. How they relate to other gem dragons could be a point of drama, or entirely irrelevant. According to the old lore, Sardior was a pretty passive ruler. His authority was unilaterally respected, but he didn't really meddle.
We've just been showing Niv Mizzet every single time we try to talk about Sardior. He's always done this. He's always used Magic the Gathering stuff for this stuff, for his videos. It just makes me giggle every single time I notice it.
In the affairs of other dragons, unless there was a real need to do so. So it's possible that the ruby dragons take a similar stance. They could just be generally happy to mind their own business unless a matter of great importance calls for their attention, at which point they must exert their authority over the other gem dragons, who will be expected to fall in line. Ruby dragons are also known to clash with red dragons, as the two of them share a preference for mountainous homes, though ruby dragons tend to favor extremely high mountain peaks, which is not always the case for a red dragon. As such, they have been known to coexist at times, mostly because the red dragon knows it probably would just lose in a fight, and the ruby dragon isn't bothered enough to care. In fact, because they often
the red dragon's just all pissy because it's like, fucker will probably win and it doesn't even care. And the ruby dragon's just like, doop 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 doop. I'm reading a book. Doop 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 doop. Hi, Mr. Bar, you going to tell me a story today? Yeah, okay, cool. Gets blasted by fire. Oh, why did it suddenly get so warm? Oh, my bard's dead. My book's gone. The fuck, man? Get out of my home. No, you get out of mine.
Often share a habitat, ruby dragons are sometimes mistaken for red dragons, which has led to many unfortunate mishaps. Up close and personal, it's much easier to discern the sheen of a ruby dragon's red gem-like scales. However, from a distance, to your average person, it's gonna look like a red flying lizard, which is great. Because the case of mistaken identity is always fun, especially when your party bursts into the dragon's lair, guns blazing, only for the dragon to try and have a conversation about the latest YA novels they've been
Intrepid adventurers, please come to our aid. A dragon has been seen around, and we have been losing members of our flocks. We fear the dragon will come for us next. Fear not, citizens. We shall go and slay the dragon forthwith. Burst into the dragon's chambers. Have at thee, great worm! Have at thee! Oh, hello, fine gentlemen. Have you read the latest book from Fizbin? It's absolutely marvelous. Why are you swinging your sword at me? Dear sirs, can you please stop? Begone, foul beast! Is this about the goats? I'm pretty sure I saw some giant ants down there eating the goats. Is that the problem? I didn't take it. Can you please stop swinging that sword at me? It kind of hurts. I don't like that. I will take them away.
breeding. As for a hoard, ruby dragons are known to hoard wealth, favoring gemstones, especially rubies, shocker, but I feel like there is plenty of room for expanding on that a bit. As conversationalists, I feel like a ruby dragon might hoard storytellers or something by initiating the construction of a mountainside writers guild or college where they hold regular symposiums for their own edification. Or maybe you've got
the ruby dragon specifically learned how to snap fingers because it runs poetry nights every other Thursday. Just, oh yes, fabulous, fabulous, love it, wonderful.
situation on your hands where a ruby dragon wormling is desperately looking for someone who can simply tell it a good bedtime story.
Aww,
but whatever
buddy.
you choose to do with this creature, as always, linked in the description down below is a Google document with my 5th edition conversion that contains everything you'll need to run it at your table for free. And of course, if you're one of my lovely patrons, you can find the Ruby Dragon high-res PDF stat block, which contains all the same information, but is presented in a more fanciful way as my way of saying thank you. And if you're not already a patron, consider checking that out in the description down below.
But yeah, this is just going to be the rest of the video is very much just him thanking his viewers and everything. But this was fantastic. This was so good. Thank you, Dungeon Dad, once again for a fantastic creature, and thank you again for like giving us a nice jump off point about such a fantastic creature. Once again, absolutely love the artwork you got done for this dragon. Where is it? Where is it? There you are. That is such a fantastic design. Hold on, let me find out. Found it. The art is by Maxwell Polikoff. So if you want to find more of his art, make sure you go check that out. I'm probably not going to have enough time to make my own version of the dragon. I apologize for that. But guys, once again, thank you so much for watching. This has been great. Go check out Dungeon Dad. Link in the description, all that fun stuff. Leave a like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let me know if you want me to go check out the rest of the Gem Dragons. Because I'd be down for that. But anyway, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. What? Hey, did you enjoy that? Was it funny? Well, come and check it out live over on twitch.tv/freeform_art. Make sure you put the _art. We have lots of fun there. We enjoy ourselves, and we want to see you over there. So come on and hang out. See you in a bit.